I'm here with Kari van Wakeren. Kari is a Lutheran pastor, writer, and she just has a new book coming out. So, Kari, thank you for joining us to tell us about your book.
My pleasure. Good to be with you today, Brian.
So, before we kind of dive into the new book, maybe you can just give us a little bit more background about yourself, about, your family, your pastoring, and, kind of how you got to where we are today.
Certainly. Well, it's kind of a windy road to some extent, but I've been a pastor in the ELCA, the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, for as long as I've been married, and that's going on 12 years in May. My husband is actually from New Zealand. So he and I met while I was doing my internship at a church in Brainerd, Minnesota, and a mutual friend kind of got the two of us together. Thomas had come to work at a camp. And so it worked despite all our, all our unknowns and uncertainties. So right after we got married, I got the call to serve for Faith, my first call at Faith Lutheran in Multona, Minnesota. And that was a small rural church with lots of lake families. And I served there for 4 years. And while there had our first child, our daughter. And then after 4 years, I was called to serve in my second call, which is a much bigger congregation, totally different, but similar geographic area. Now we're in Alexandria, Minnesota, which is just down the road, really, and still in Lake Country. And the day before I was supposed to start that call, our son was born. So we now have 2 kids, and they're 10 and 8. And so my first book was really birthed about when Esme was 4. She would run around and get hurt and come and want a Band-Aid and tell me about her owies. And I wanted her to know that she was strong, that she could handle things, that to not be afraid to try new things. And one day, rather than get exasperated when she wanted yet another Band-Aid for yet another owie, I said, should we just wrap you in bubble wrap? And she was kind of like, whoa, no way, mommy. But I thought, you know what, I could write a book about that. And so that is the title of the book is called Bubble Wrap Girl. It's about just how we have what it takes within us to handle those hard things in life, that we can try new things and sort of to be brave and not be timid or hold back too much in life. So that was quite a journey in and of itself. And then my new book is now not a children's book. This one was sort of birthed through so many different experiences in ministry and the nuances of being a working mom, a wife, having all these different roles and responsibilities and trying to figure it all out. And that's the story for so many of us, and it's different for each of us. But I sort of wish I would have had a roadmap or some role models as I was going through it. And so I've just sort of kept all of this in my mind, and then went on sabbatical, 3-month sabbatical a couple summers ago. And that was when I could really start putting those thoughts on paper. So the book is called Unbalanced but Centered, Tending to Your Heart in the Frenzy of Life. And it really is meant to do just that, encourage readers that, a perfectly balanced life is really a myth. We like to think that it's possible. We've been told that you can have it all, but there's all sorts of seasons, all sorts of, things that come up in life, and we really have to just figure out what works for us along the way. And what I've found is that it's by staying centered and taking that time to tend to my heart and to stay centered in who I am in Christ, that is really where we find that we can experience the fullness of what Jesus promises us in terms of the abundant life and the the inner peace that I think Jesus came for and wants for all of us.
Very cool. Very cool. So this book just came out, right?
Yes, it just came out. Halloween actually is the imprint date. So it's just over a month, really a month and a half, barely into the world.
And how did you publish it?
I decided to publish it through KDP, which is Amazon's service. And I had tried the traditional route, but that is really a tough nut to crack, and found that this was a message I believe is so relevant, and so many of us need to hear it, kind of to breathe peace into our crazy lives. And they were crazy before COVID, and COVID has just added all sorts of different unbalances to the mix. So I thought it was so relevant. I didn't want to wait and see any longer how long it would take and to get it out there. So I decided to do it through KDP, and was actually quite pleased with the process.
Yeah, so a lot of folks are not familiar with what it takes to do that. Maybe you could like just give people a rundown of the steps that, not the writing part of it, but the actual
Right.
publishing part of it. Yeah.
Sure. Well, I had all of my manuscript already edited by somebody, and it was ready to go in terms of what I was happy with. I had gone through it, and so KDP has formats that you can follow. Otherwise, they have a step-by-step guide that you can kind of format your manuscript as you go, and then all sorts of details, can be changed, but also they give you recommendations. And then you have to create a cover, and they also have a template for doing that. You can upload your own artwork or image if you have it. Otherwise, they have kind of their stock images, and one that they had fit the kind of the message or the image I'm trying to portray. So that was a good fit. And yeah, it's a process to do all that yourself, but compared to how long it took to write the book and all the drafts that putting together a book entails, the formatting piece for KDP was pretty quick when it came down to it.
That's good. That's really good to hear, and pretty inexpensive.
Right. Yes, very inexpensive compared to publishing a children's book. I self-published that one through an independent publisher, and with the illustrations, and we bought so many copies, and then we're responsible for selling them. That was a huge investment, and this was such a great option for not putting out, not having that initial investment, and yet being able to share that message with readers.
And so now, of course, since the book's available, your focus now is getting it out there. So how's that gone so far?
Yes. Well, it's sort of an ever-present thing, something I'm always thinking about, and yet trying to not put too much pressure on myself at the same time. Having kids, doing distance learning, and working from home full time, and all of that. So I've really tried to work my network and invite other people to then share about it in a way that kind of is true to them. I have several other writing pieces scheduled, so that then my bio with this book will be attached to those things. So I'm really trying to see it as a long road, although there is that initial punch where we want to get it out there and get that word of mouth starting to spread, especially.
Sure, of course. Well, it's an interesting time to be an author, isn't it? I mean, there's the whole platform thing. There's the whole publishing path difference, that you've shown to be quite viable, compared to traditional publishing. And so a lot of dynamics in the market these days.
There certainly are. And, I think a lot of writers probably tell you that so many of those things are not what drew them to be a writer or to write a book. And so there is kind of that rub all the time, like, Well, I'm happiest when I'm writing something that can touch people. I don't necessarily love the work of marketing or that sort of thing, but today it is also necessary and it's also intertwined. So it's kind of figuring out how to make that work in a way that doesn't zap all my joy, and finding those ways to get the word out there without making myself crazy too.
So, despite all the things that you do, I mean, do you have things on the horizon that you're working on?
Right now, I'm working on some collections of devotions. I really like the taking something in our life and connecting it to maybe something in scripture or something related to the life of faith. And so that's kind of the ongoing little project I'm working on. But in terms of another book, I don't have any plans for that right now.
Well, after all your work that you did, to get this one out, I can completely understand. Then it's better for you to focus on that for right now too.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Just sharing, what you've done and how it can help people.
Right. Well, and there's always that pressure to try to do more or, produce more, make more, be more. And that's part of the message of my book too. Like right now you are enough, and to just take that time to be still, to trust really that you're where you need to be and God's working right there.
So just so people know how to find it, again, the name of the book is Unbalanced but Centered, Tending to Your Heart in the Frenzy of Life. And you can find it on Kari's website, which is karivanwakeren.com. That's KarivanWakeren.com. So Kari, thanks for joining us. It was really great to speak with you. And I'm so glad to see that you were able to get this book out in print.
My pleasure. Thanks for your time, Brian. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Kari. Great to talk to you as always.
You too.